Hola guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Roxanne. If it's your first time here, then welcome. Today I want to talk to you guys about the next 5 books that I read this year. The first that I finished this past month was The Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis, and this book is a young adult book that essentially discusses the central question, I guess, to me really was, how far are you willing to go and what are you willing to do if your sister or someone that you truly very deeply loved was sexually assaulted and raped. We discuss this mainly through our 3 main characters, and we see rape culture manifest itself in 3 ways through the lives of our 3 main characters. I was going into this book expecting to adore it, and there are many things about it that I do. There are many things about it that I really enjoyed. There are many aspects of it and the discussions that are had and themes that I really enjoyed, and it was unputdownable for me. I really couldn't stop reading it and listening to it, so I definitely give it props for all of that. And I love that Mindy McGinnis felt that she could go there and that she wanted to have this discussion. I think all of those things were great, but there were some issues that I found while I was reading it that I really wanted to discuss. And so I did enjoy the three different points of view, because I felt that it allowed us to get different manifestations of rape culture, and obviously that it does manifest in many different ways. Oh, I should really say content warning for rape and sexual assault and pedophilia, and yeah, but I mean, go into this knowing that it's a difficult read. It takes place in a small town in Ohio, I believe, so that again adds another sort of level to the discussion, because we know stereotypically how small towns are. Everybody knows each other. The gossip runs amok. Everyone has very strong opinions on everybody, and everybody's kind of in each other's business. So our first and sort of main character is Alex, who is the sister of a girl who was raped and killed. And so she's our main character, and I love her. She is so strong, she's so intelligent, and through the book we see her develop and start to make friends, open up to people, and really grapple with a lot of inner demons that she has. And I think that was done beautifully. I think she was written in a way that really made her approachable, and you felt, at least I felt, a lot for her, and I thought that was really great. Our second point of view is PK, or the preacher's kid, and she is, all 3 of our characters, our main characters, go to school together. So they're 3 kind of teenage seniors, I believe. Yes, seniors. And so our second character is PK. They refer to her as, and so she's the preacher's kid, and through her we see the way that religion kind of plays a little bit of a role in small towns, and then in the discussion of rape culture and rape and sexual assault. And through her we see also how women can be so much against other women, and how that is a trap that a lot of us fall into through the patriarchy and through rape culture. And a lot of the times we have to unlearn all of that, and through her we see how she begins to try to unlearn all of that, but we also see the manifestation of that in the way that she sees other girls that she goes to school with, the way that her friends see other girls that they go to school with. And so I was glad to see that, and I was glad to see that she develops slowly, and we see a change definitely at the end of the book and the beginning of the book with her, and how she begins to learn to accept herself and other women, and really learn that we can empower each other and bring each other up and forward despite all the pitfalls that are put in place for us. Our third character is Jack, and he is like the popular hot guy that everybody likes, or many girls like. And through him we see how rape culture manifests in men, the locker room talk, and the, you know, getting it in with women and how many people he's been with and all of this, and it was grating to listen to and to experience through the book. And I personally did not like him as a character. I don't think that he was held to the same standard as the girls do. While we can see very distinctly a change in PK, that's not really there with Jack. At least I didn't think so. He changes in his interactions with Alex, but I don't want there to be this narrative out there that it's all of this goes away because they fall in love with one special girl. Like, they should learn. People like Jack need to learn and to change with everybody and to change their ways of thinking and to have to put pressure on their friends to change as well, to call out people. And I felt like he would revert back a lot to his old attitudes and ways when he wasn't thinking about Alex, or when he wasn't with Alex, or when he encountered other women. There's a slut shaming that comes through his point of view, the way that he discusses the ways girls talk, or the way they dress, or the way they act around other people and around other guys. And it was very grating, and I didn't feel like he was held to the same standard. And again, I sort of felt that we got the YA absentee parents. They're definitely there. PK's parents are there, and like they show up. It's not that they're not there, but at the same time, I felt like, again, we get this sense of there's no really discipline anywhere. These kids are out all the time. They're drinking, they're coming home drunk. We see maybe a little bit of a repercussion and in some instances where they're like, oh, you're grounded, but we keep seeing them out and partying and hanging out, and it's like, where are the parents? Like, these are high schoolers. Where is any adult? Why is no one being reprimanded when shit keeps going down? It just, again, I don't know, like, do authors not realize parents exist? Okay, like, a lot of us couldn't do this shit. Like, I couldn't just go out and be out all night, and then I would come home and my dad would say you're grounded, but then the next day I'd be out again. That's not how it worked. And you know, obviously the familial relationships and dynamics vary very vastly with teenagers and parents, but I feel like this is very consistently showing up in YA again and again, where we don't see parents that are really there, very invested in their kids' lives. One of the characters that we have in this book is this sort of like the stereotypical slutty girl that all the girls hate, and she gets all the guys, and she's a bitch and all this stuff. And there are times in which we start to see some nuance to her character, and I was very excited because I was like, okay, cool. So we're not gonna do the thing that we always do, where we have this one female character that's like the scapegoat for all of the shit that goes down. And so we start to see some complexity to her character, and I was very excited, but then it all goes to crap in the end of the book. Like, she never really is fully allowed to develop and become her own complex character, because the last impression that we get of her is back to those stereotypes, and that was so annoying. Oh my gosh. I guess the last major thing that I want to talk about is that I feel that the female characters in this book are, again, just held to a different standard. I am talking very specifically about the last sort of scene in the book where we see some of the female characters start to do certain things in their school as a response to everything that's been going on. But again, it starts with the women, and I hate that we constantly put all of the responsibility and all of the pressure for change on women, and that has to change. Like, you have all of these male characters as well, and they're present, but they're always like following the women's lead, and it's like everybody needs to be held accountable. This is something that everybody needs to be responsible for and to change on, and I hate that in every instance that I can remember in the book where some shit was going down, it was always the women that stepped up first and tried to handle the situation first, and it's like, why are we constantly doing this and putting this pressure on women in society to change things? Like, yeah, because we've always been the ones fucking changing everything, that there's no doubt about that, but can we try and become like just universally unified against this and and put the pressure on men to change, please. But yeah, I mean, overall I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed, again, the themes that she was trying to explore. There was just things about it that rubbed me the wrong way, but I think overall it's something that I recommend you should read because it does bring up topics that make you think. Really, our main character, I love her. I love her so much. So yeah. So the second book in this wrap-up is The Diary of Frida Kahlo. I don't really have much to say about this. It's great to have, and I'm sure that I'll go back to a lot. But again, it's not really something that I sit down and read. It's just something that I look through. I look at the artwork. You know, I wonder at her way of being and her way of thinking, because I find her to be a beautiful and complex woman, and hero and figure to many, especially Latina women. So I'm really glad to have it, but it's not really something that I'm reading, if that makes sense. Then I finished Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan, and so this is about a young woman, Rachel, who has a boyfriend, Nick, and they've been dating for like 2 years, and he is going to go back to Singapore to visit his family and to attend his best friend's wedding, and he invites Rachel along. So she's like, oh, okay, cool, you know, like we're making these steps forward in our relationship, and maybe it's getting a little bit more serious, but they haven't discussed marriage or anything like that. They just have been having a really good time and love each other very, very much. And so they decide to go on this trip to Singapore together, and when she gets there, she finds out that he is really, 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 really rich. Like, he's like the perfect bachelor for all the young women in Singapore. Everyone's vying for his attention. And so we see how they as a couple are sort of having to come out of the little world that they've created back in New York and face family and culture. And it talks about it's about the cultural expectations, the societal expectations, which play a very, very large role, because Rachel is not wealthy. She's not really anybody famous or anything like that. So the family are like, who the hell is this chick? She's a nobody. And it is very entertaining. It's very fast-paced. It's very out there. I did feel at times it was a little too much, like it was a little too out there for me, and I kind of wanted to take a break from all the bananasness of the family. But overall, I really enjoyed myself. It was very entertaining. I really want to know what happens in the next books, and I am very excited for the movie to come out. Another thing that I do wish we would have got, I wish we would have gotten a little bit more of them as a couple, and them as individuals, and as individuals in love with each other, and the couple and the dynamic there. We get that more in the end, but there's a lot of family in between the rest of the book, and so I I hope that we get to see a little bit more of them and who they are as people and who they are with each other in the following books. Then I read Jane Steele by Lindsay Fay. This is a reimagining of Jane Eyre. It's someone said it's like Jane Eyre with a dose of Dexter, and that's kind of what this book is. So in the beginning of the book, we get this young girl named Jane, and she's living in this estate with her mother and her the sister of her father, so her aunt on her father's side, and her son. And there are some instances that go on between her and her cousin that are very uncomfortable, not cool at all. And there is a situation that results in the death of her cousin, and she feels that she is responsible and that she killed him, and that sort of sets the stage for the rest of her life. She is sent off to a boarding school that is horrible. A situation happens there and she's forced to escape. She then has to sort of live in the streets and learn how to become very street smart, defend herself. More situations continue to happen with men, and she deals with them in a very final way. And then she comes across this the information that the estate that she used to live in is now being lived in and managed by this other family, and they're looking for a governess. So she applies and she goes, and it's this doctor and all of his friends that are now servants in this estate, and they're all Punjabi except for the doctor, kind of owner of the house, who was, I think, born and raised there, but is actually English. And so we get a lot of like different components going on that make for a very interesting story. I love Jane as a character. I think she was very well fleshed out. I love how she deals with all of these situations, very difficult situations, with her family, her past, all of the men that she encounters. I love how protective of women she is. And I just thought this was very fun, very entertaining. I loved how it discusses women, their autonomy, how they kind of take charge of their own life. I love how badass she is. So it's a reimagining of Jane Eyre. So if you've read Jane Eyre, you kind of know, you can kind of expect how it's going to end when she goes back to the estate and she meets the doctor, who is now owner and living in the estate. And I love how their relationship develops. And I think it speaks to a more modern feminist than Jane Eyre does. I really enjoyed it. I loved all the characters. I thought it was great fun to read, and I definitely recommend it, especially if you like sort of that kick-ass woman that takes things under control and kind of handles everything. And if you enjoy that, the reimagining of Jane Eyre plus Dexter, then by all means pick it up. And it gave me the same sort of feels that Jane Eyre did, which was great, because I was wondering if it would give me that same sort of wondrous dark atmosphere that Jane Eyre has kind of interwoven into the story, and it did, and it was great, and I really enjoyed it. So the last book that I read, oh my gosh, it is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. In this case, we get a group of 7 thespians who are in this what seems to be a prestigious school they're studying Shakespeare, and so every year they're responsible for acting in several Shakespeare plays, and their exams include performing monologues and things like that. And so through time, they're in their 4th year now, our main character Oliver begins to realize that the same characters that a lot of them play on stage begin to bleed on to their real offstage life. Live together, they spend a lot of time together, and the leaders, the teachers of their classes decide to kind of change things up a little bit and change the casting. There's a running joke especially that's introduced in the beginning of the book, where they're always cast for the same type of character. So there's the Duchess, the villain, our tragic hero, blah blah blah. And when that's shaken up a little bit, things don't end well. One of them ends up dead, and we have to deal with the repercussions of what that means for their group, for their school year. And I loved this book. It's so beautifully written. It's a mystery, but not in the sense that it's very thrilling or anything like that, or I didn't feel that way. I felt that it was very quiet, and it just like quietly sneaks up on you, and it kind of grips you, and at the end you're like this, but you didn't actually like feel yourself getting to that point. It's so good. Oh my gosh, it's so good. And it did the thing that I never thought would be possible, which is that it interested me in Shakespeare. I've never really been interested in Shakespeare. If there's something that comes across the page very, very well, is their passion and their like obsession for Shakespeare and for what they do as a group and as students. And so the story begins with Oliver, who is our main character, in jail speaking with a detective, and he is about to finish his stint in jail, and he promises that he's going to reveal all of the truth to the detective once he's out, and once the detective has retired, under the promise that no consequences will come after that. Like, I'm going to tell you the truth, but no one else can get in trouble for this, essentially. And so you don't know how guilty or not Oliver is, and at the end I felt like I knew what was going to happen, and I was like, okay, so that makes sense, this is gonna happen, blah blah blah. But then the last like few sentences, you're like, oh my gosh. It's a complex dynamic that is there between all of them, and all of them are likable and unlikable, each in their own special way, and they're all complex, well-developed characters that I loved. I love the writing, I love the story, I love everything about this book. You should definitely pick it up. Those are the books that I read. Those are the last 5 books that I have read. I intended to do this so that my videos would be shorter, but I'm looking and I've been filming for 29 minutes and 16 seconds. So let me know if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them. Let me know what you have currently been reading. As always, thank you for watching and for listening. I love you guys.